Millennials have become the largest demographic of adults in the United States, yet a lot of churches are still struggling with ways to practically reach them. In this conversation, we're going to give you 5 tips to help your church engage with more millennials. We hope this conversation helps you reach more people and grow. Well, hey guys, welcome to the Reach Right podcast. I'm your host, Thomas Costello, and with me as always is my co-host,
Ian Hyatt. What's up, Thomas?
Hey, not much, man. Excited. We're going to be talking today about how churches can do a better job attracting and connecting with and engaging millennials. I think that's something that a lot of churches struggle with. I think that a lot of times we're kind of fuzzy on who millennials are because for so long, we just use millennial as a placeholder for teenagers and 20-somethings.
Anyone who's younger.
Yeah, and so... Yeah, actually, millennials are in their 40s now, some of them. So, the oldest ones are in their 40s. You and I are... I used to say proudly not millennials. But we're right on the cusp, right? So generally speaking, when we're talking about millennials for this conversation, different people divide it differently, but it's 81 through 96, those birth years there. So you and I are both not millennials. You're a little bit more not millennial than I am, but it's
love to point
that's
that
neither
out.
here nor there. Both of our wives are millennials, although my wife tends to not like to claim that because we often blame generational differences for most of the problems in our marriage. Some of our discord comes from that. I'm kidding. But anyway, I just think it's an important conversation because this is something, it's a really important group for us to be reaching because it is now become the largest group of adults in the United States, at least. So millennials are an enormous generation. And I think that if you're not reaching these people that are 96, they're probably 25 to early 40s now. So if you're not reaching this group, you're missing out on basically the entirety of the young family demographic that's out there. So, but I guess before we get into some of the how we do it, how we do a better job as churches reaching millennials, I think it might help. I think we'd spend a little time talking about, you can share this, Ian. What did we unpack as some of the keys? What do millennials care about? What are they looking for? That's a good place to start, I think.
Yeah, before you start reaching them, it's better to understand who they are and what they value
like a
in this
hunter
case.
Going after its prey.
That's right.
You know exactly what you want to see in that. So tell us, what is our prey like?
You're not going to go hunt a shark with just a pocket knife. So
you never hunt a shark, but go ahead.
Some people do.
We don't hunt those here in Hawaii.
You're closer to where it may happen. Anyway, so here we go. So they demand authenticity from organizations they associate with. They value personal growth. And I like this one here. They long to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Other than that, they also want to be involved in meaningful conversations. They want to know that they're making a difference in their lives. And they're also, last but not least, a very tech-savvy generation.
Yeah. I think that I think a lot of us younger Gen Xers, like you and myself, we tend to identify with a lot of this stuff here because I feel like I was on the very tail end of the Gen X generation. We're kind of generationally homeless, I would say, in some ways. But I feel like all those things describe the kinds of churches that I created in my ministry and the kinds of environments we want to create here at Reach Right. I mean, other than you and I, everybody on our team is a millennial, I think. And so... Yeah,
but you made it clear I'm the oldest here at 44.
We have just turned 44.
Just turned 44, so...
You are our elder. That's exactly right. You're the elder of the Reach Right family here. So anyway, I think that it is something that I can relate to a lot of these things because I kind of feel like a millennial in all of those areas. But I think understanding that stuff you're just talking about is really key to I guess understanding that is how we came up with some of the ideas that we're seeing effective churches do to reach more millennials. Those that are good at it, they're doing some of these things. So I'll go ahead and kick us off. The first one is we need to find ways to create meaningful communities. We need to find ways to do that because I think, like you said, this place of being part of something bigger than themselves and like having authenticity is off the chart, something that they value. And I'm always surprised by that. Like when we talk about authenticity being important to millennials, this is also the generation that is like that made Instagram, right? So I kind of think of it like Facebook was for Gen Xers and Instagram was for millennials and TikTok is for Gen Z. You know, there's all kinds of crossover and people use all of them. But I think it's funny to me to think of like the Instagram world is the world users, the ones that made that are the ones that value authenticity most. Yeah. Because when you think of Instagram, like the first word that comes to your mind is not authenticity. It's not like, it's almost like feigned authenticity. It's like the highlight reel, the me pretending that this is my authentic self. But
here's my selfie.
Yeah.
Here's me working out.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So it's the best food that we eat. It's a picture of that. It's you doing the most weight you ever lifted. It's you on when you're looking your best, doing your best duck lips or whatever it is that that the girls do, or the way that they hold their knee to make themselves look a certain way. I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but
it sounds like
the point. I know of it. I can't tell you how to do it. I can give you really bad advice on how to execute it. But anyway, I think that churches, we need to run with this idea that people are looking for a place to authentically be themselves. We're also seeing left and right that the millennials are the most likely group to be watching services online. So there's kind of a disconnect here because, while there can be authentic community happening online, and it does happen more and more, I think that what we're seeing is that like face-to-face, real relationship, often in homes, over meals, these kinds of things, it's what millennials are really longing for in their day-to-day life.
Being able to volunteer together, do outreaches together, those types of things. Yeah,
absolutely. It's meaningful community. But here's the rub is that like I think a lot of people are having a harder and harder time finding that, right? So it's like there's this, I believe it's the loneliest generation. I just see the loneliness is off the charts nowadays. And I think these people have a hard time getting over themselves in some ways to kind of get to that place. So the church has a huge opportunity in front of us to reach this generation. I think it's by making fun, healthy, authentic, safe communities that people of all kinds can be a part of, not just millennials. It's for Gen Z, it's for boomers and Gen Xers and everybody. But I think that is really a recipe for reaching more people. And that's one of the big pivots where we went from a very large, often inauthentic, big church experience for a lot of people to having more intimate experiences that are authentic. I think that's a really big opportunity for us.
Yeah, no, that's good. I don't have much to add to that unless you still have some there. I think that's a good segue into the next one that I have here, which is that you need to embrace technology to better reach millennials. That is a given. They are tech savvy. They watch, as you just mentioned, more online messages, or they're online more than any other generation. Well, I shouldn't say any other generation, other generation that precedes them. But so basically, you want to do things like making sure you have an interactive, engaging social media presence, that definitely that you have online giving options for them. They don't write checks anymore. Maybe like if a school only takes it or something like that for their kids' event or something like that. Yeah. But, have online giving. We just mentioned on our last podcast that online giving now has surpassed, physical giving, if you will. So have a high quality online church experience as much as possible. And by the way, if you're a smaller church, you can still have, in an affordable way, a high quality online church experience. And then other than that, having a well-designed website, having church management software, ways for them to log in and be engaged and connect, and an app could be a good thing as well. So you just want to make sure that you are relevant to them. And this reminds me of a statistic we saw a little while back, and I can't remember the number, but it was maybe 42%. No, it was maybe a 20, whatever it is, between 20 and 40%. It was a long time ago, so I'm okay if I forget it. But basically, the reasons why millennials don't engage, 20 to 40% of them said they don't engage or go to church because they feel like it's no longer relevant to them. So this is one way to be relevant, is to embrace technology, which is what they're using and where they're at.
Yeah. I was a youth pastor in the mid 2000s and early 2000s. And then I hadn't really done much with youth ministry again until I was speaking at a camp or two. And I did that 3 or 4 years ago. I was speaking at camps. And it was amazing to me. And this is a little bit more millennial versus Gen Z in some ways.
Sure.
But when I was a youth pastor and we took our kids to camps, the idea of bringing your phone with you to camp was an absolute joke, right? Like it was absolutely strictly no phones under any circumstances. You cannot have any of that there. And now the idea of telling kids at a camp for church that you can't have your phone with you, it's laughable, right? Like I remember it was surprising to me when I was there speaking at camp, and I realized, okay, youth ministry has changed completely in that every single kid here is on their phone really while we're speaking. Hopefully they're not doing, TikToking, or maybe they are. It's just people are much better at multitasking than they were when I was a kid, at least. And so I was amazed, but technology, I think from millennials on, I think it is something that has to be a part of your ministry. It's not optional to just kind of use it as like a addition. It is something that it needs to be native to what your ministry is doing there. So
that's good.
Yeah, good stuff. Next one, number 3, is you need to offer opportunities for growth. I think millennials are more responsive to these kinds of opportunities than their Gen X peers, maybe not parents, but like certainly their older Gen X parents or their boomer parents, if they have those. Yeah. So when I talk about this, I'm thinking about things like Financial Peace University classes or Celebrate Recovery type events or marriage seminars and again, leveraging technology, both online and off. But I think millennials are very receptive to kind of this idea of personal growth and being able to learn and actually gain skills. And I think the church is a great place to do that. There's a whole movement right now. We know this from our industry where people, they're willing to buy courses, especially online courses, more than they ever have been in the past. So every business person right now, we don't do this here at REACHRIGHT, but we try to give away most of our educational stuff for free. Yeah. But every business out there is trying to get kind of going in this course world of selling courses, digital courses, all this stuff here. And I think it's because this millennial generation is very open to this idea of paying for something if there's actual tangible growth that they can measure as a result of doing it. So I think it's a huge opportunity for churches, is helping them have opportunities where they can actually grow and see a difference in their lives.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I don't have much to add to that, because I think that's a perfect segue to the next one, is that's helping them find purpose and make a difference. So from that growth, they want growth. And they all, as we mentioned in the values that we shared at the beginning of this, they want to find their purpose in their life. They want to make an impact and a difference. So as a church, that might start with, we feel like every church should have a good assimilation process these days. We know that's a struggle for a lot of churches to get together, but churches are getting better at it. I'm encouraged. I connect with so many churches that are better at it now compared to years past, but that could be obviously a class where they, not only understand service opportunities, but help them discover their unique gifts, their spiritual gifts. Make sure that they know outlets to be involved in outreach. You reminded me, so, I have family that, and particularly sisters that don't attend church and are still not there yet, but I remember when you and I used to do Laundry Love, which is an outreach we did just twice a month. We'd wash people's clothes for free in the community just to be a blessing to them. Touched a lot of people's lives. Well, a sister who's a millennial, that she wasn't interested in church, but that to her, she was like, I'd love to help your church out with that. I would love to. So again, and she's was really for that. And again, that's an example of an unchurched person, but this is an example of how millennials are wired. They want to make a difference. So make sure they can get involved in extending beyond just coming, because they want to do more than just go to church on Sunday or watch online. They want to make an impact and difference. So make sure your church is providing those outlets.
I found that I think millennials and Gen Z, one of the best evangelism methods is giving people a chance to be involved in service. There's such a deep need that I think that generationally that they have so much deeper than the generations that went before them, that this is a real way. And I actually have have people that I'm thinking of right now that have made a decision to follow Jesus that first encountered him because they jumped in with Laundry Love or other kind of like homeless outreaches and things that we were doing. And they jumped in on those and they rubbed shoulders with people that believed in Jesus and started to connect with them and gave their life over to the Lord because of it. And so I think that it's a huge opportunity if you want to reach millennials and Gen Z. I think one of the keys to that is really giving them places to serve. And frankly, they will not be a part of a church that is just about what's happening inside of those four walls. That they will that is unappealing and actually it's a total turnoff to them. It's a good way to say it. Yeah. So I think that's a really good one, Ian. So last one is kind of in the same vein, is focus on the issues of importance and challenge. Focus on things that really matter to millennials. Actually, we have some, I'm going to read some of these off here. This is a study from Y Pulse, and they stated the 15 biggest problem, kind of right before this last election cycle. This is the 15 biggest problems in the United States for millennials and Gen Z. Here's what they said. Number one was inflation. So, if you're watching this in 2024, hopefully that's not a big deal anymore. But anyway, inflation, you guys know that right now it's 7 or 8% is where we're at. And so, so inflation, technology overdependence and addiction, that's number two.
Wow.
Millennials and Gen Z report that number two, their second biggest problem, is their overdependence on technology and having an addiction to it. So
not shocked.
That's something important there. Pandemic, this is 2022 when we're filming this here, so still in people's minds. Number 4 is racism, they say. Number 5, social media. Number 6, economy. Then climate change and global warming, acceptance, tolerance, respect of differences, and other people's values and opinions. That kind of goes hand in hand with that episode we did a couple of weeks ago about how almost half of Christian millennials believe that following Jesus is the best decision someone can make, but they believe that it's wrong to tell someone of another faith that they should follow Jesus, or that to tell them about Jesus with the hopes that they will change what they faith. So there's kind of there's some question around tolerance versus what evangelism looked like. You can listen to that other episode if you're interested. So number 9, mental health, job opportunities, crime and violence, the government as a kind of broad category. So distrust of the government. We just saw that like institutions like the government, there is more and more distrust for them. Affordable housing and housing availability. This is huge for millennials right now, is that they're a generation that has a enormous disadvantage. And especially now with sky high interest rates and housing prices that have skyrocketed, almost doubled in the last 5 or 6 years here. It's really crazy stuff. So there's that bullying and social disconnection. So this is what they label as their top 15 challenges for millennials. So I think it's important just to know these things. I'm not really even here to give like a prescription. I don't think that any church should be tackling all of these things or try to be the answer. You don't necessarily
need a sermon topic on each one of these every Sunday. So.
No, and I don't think your church can do much. I mean, it's like, I think all of these are worthy. I think you can have like what the Bible says about these kinds of things and teaching on this kind of stuff. But it is important, I think, to see what millennial and Gen Z, the things that they are concerned about. And, I think if you are a boomer or a Gen Xer and you're leading a church, and you start to wonder, well, what does, I don't really care the same way about, the pandemic or climate change or job opportunities or housing cost the same way that these young people do. Well, I think it's important that you kind of preach to the audience you have, not to the audience that you want. They are where they are right now. And so we need to be focusing on these kinds of issues that actually do matter to them. And, that's, it's, obviously pray and trust what the Holy Spirit would say on what you should be preaching about. But I think this is important to know, some of these kinds of things that millennials are getting up day in and day out concerned about. So helpful, I think.
I think very helpful. Again, reminded, as I often have been reminded of what Billy Graham said, they don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Well, if you understand what they care about, who they are, you know how to address their needs, and it shows that you actually do care, which is a big deal to them. So Good stuff.
Good stuff. I'll end with this. I've said this before on the podcast, but millennials, we love you guys. Though we're married to millennials, like I said, so we really love millennials.
We're closer to you than we are Gen X.
Yeah, but I want to say just that, like, I want to apologize for 15 years of abuse that you were leveled from my generation, kind of making fun of you and calling you lazy and snowflakes and all those things. So
and
all the things that we did. So we apologize. We know that now millennials rule the world. So you guys are in the prime season of your life there. So anyway, if this has been helpful to you, those of you, whether you are a millennial or you are trying to lead millennials in your church, it would mean a lot to us if you would rate, review, subscribe. Let us know in the comments. If you have any other things that you have picked up that you think are an important part of reaching millennials, we'd love to see that in the comments as well. Thanks so much, guys, for being a part of the Reach Right family, and we'll catch you next week.
See ya.